On February 3, 1913, the 16th Amendment was ratified, giving Congress the power to levy an income tax without apportioning it among the states according to population. This might not sound revolutionary, but this single amendment fundamentally transformed how America funds its government and what that government could accomplish. The story of the 16th Amendment begins with a Supreme Court decision that created a constitutional crisis. During the Civil War, Congress had successfully imposed an income tax to fund the Union's military efforts. This tax expired in 1872, but it proved that income taxation was both possible and effective. For decades, the federal government relied primarily on tariffs, taxes on imported goods, to fund its operations. By the 1890s, many Americans believed this tariff system was unfair. Tariffs raised the prices of goods, hitting poor families hardest because they spent a larger percentage of their income on necessities. Meanwhile, the wealthy paid relatively little, as they derived their income from investments in property rather than purchases of tariffed goods. Progressive reformers and many Democrats argued that an income tax would be fairer because it would tax people according to their ability to pay. In 1894, Congress passed an income tax law, but the Supreme Court struck it down in Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company in 1895. The court ruled that a tax on income from property was a direct tax that the Constitution required to be apportioned among states based on population. This created an impossible situation. How could you apportion an income tax by population when wealth was concentrated in certain states? Under apportionment, a millionaire in a low-population state might pay less tax than a working man in a high-population state. This decision essentially made a federal income tax unconstitutional without a constitutional amendment. And for the next 18 years, advocates worked to pass exactly that. The push for the 16th Amendment came from an unlikely coalition. Western and Southern states, which were generally less prosperous and more agricultural, strongly supported it. They saw income taxation as a way to shift the tax burden from ordinary consumers to the wealthy industrialists concentrated in the Northeast. Even some wealthy reformers supported it, believing that those who had benefited most from America's prosperity should contribute proportionally to its government. Here's where the story takes an ironic turn. Conservative Republicans in Congress opposed the income tax, but thought they had a clever strategy to kill it. They would propose a constitutional amendment, believing it would never get the required 3/4 of states to ratify. State legislatures, they assumed, would never voluntarily give the federal government such extensive taxing power. They were spectacularly wrong. The amendment passed Congress on July 2, 1909, with overwhelming majorities 77-0 in the Senate and 318-14 in the House. Then state after state ratified it. By early 1913, 42 states had approved it, 6 more than needed. Even New York, home to many millionaires, ratified it. The opposition had badly misjudged public sentiment. Secretary of State Philander Knox certified the amendment's ratification on February 25, 1913. Shortly afterward, Congress passed the Revenue Act of 1913, implementing the first permanent income tax under the new amendment. The initial rates were modest, just 1% on incomes above $3,000 for individuals, rising to a maximum of 7% on incomes over $500,000. Due to generous exemptions, less than 1% of Americans actually paid income tax in 1913. But the amendment's impact soon became clear. When America entered World War I in 1917, Congress raised income tax rates dramatically, with top rates reaching 77% by war's end. The income tax, which had raised just $71 million in 1913, brought in nearly $4 billion by 1918. The federal government had discovered a revenue source that could expand dramatically when needed. The 16th Amendment teaches several important lessons about American government. First, it demonstrates that expanding federal power isn't inherently good or bad. What matters is how that power is used and whether it's constrained by law and accountability. The amendment didn't grant unlimited taxing power. Congress still must follow legal procedures, and citizens can challenge tax laws in court. Second, the amendment shows how democratic processes can produce unexpected results. Opponents tried to use the amendment process to kill the income tax, but they discovered that when people deliberate and vote, outcomes aren't always predictable. This is democracy working sometimes against what powerful interests prefer. Third, the income tax profoundly changed federal-state relations. By giving the federal government access to vast revenues, the amendment enabled the expansion of federal programs in the 20th century. This has been controversial. Some argue it's enabled government overreach, while others believe it's allowed the federal government to address problems states couldn't solve individually. Critics of the 16th Amendment argue it's enabled excessive government spending and facilitated policies they oppose. Some, including notable figures like Congressman Ron Paul, have called for its repeal. These critics make important points about limited government and fiscal responsibility. The amendment certainly has enabled larger federal budgets than the founders likely envisioned. Supporters respond that modern governance requires adequate revenue, that income taxation is fairer than alternatives like sales taxes that burden the poor disproportionately, and that voters can always elect representatives who will lower taxes if they choose. The amendment doesn't mandate any particular tax rate. It merely gives Congress the authority to levy income taxes, while leaving policy decisions to elected representatives. The 16th Amendment reminds us of a crucial truth. The Constitution isn't frozen in time. The founders wisely included an amendment process because they understood future generations would face challenges they couldn't foresee. The income tax debate centered on how to fund government fairly and effectively, a legitimate question every generation must answer. Whether you view the 16th Amendment as a necessary adaptation or a dangerous expansion of federal power, its impact is undeniable. It has fundamentally shaped how America finances everything from national defense to infrastructure to social programs. Understanding this amendment helps us think critically about the proper role and scope of federal taxation, a debate that continues today and will continue as long as America endures.